All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Danso Pitch podcast. This is episode 59 of the Danso Pitch. I am your host, Charles Danso. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Daniel Goodman. Daniel, how you feeling today?
Feeling great, man. Feeling great. Happy MLK Day.
Yes. Happy
Very
ML.
excited.
Right. Happy MLK Day for those that are listening and or watching this. We'll probably have this dropped. You guys will probably be at work by tomorrow, but we are recording on MLK Day. So just know that even on the holidays, we're grinding for you guys, giving you guys valuable content that you guys can use just going forward. So this episode, what we're going to kind of highlight is the 9 to 5 workforce and why individuals of our generation, particularly the millennial generation, seems to be moving away from it. And for those that are in the 9 to 5 workforce, why is it that they're working in certain industries as opposed to other industries? Is this a common trend, or is this just a one-time thing based on the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera? We're going to cover all this for you and give you guys some real-world examples of our own personal experiences working in the financial industry and how that's impacted how we do our entrepreneurial work outside of the 9 to 5 lifestyle. So getting right into it, what I want to highlight, Daniel, for the audience is kind of highlight what are specific reasons as to why maybe a lot of individuals from the age of, let's say, right out of college of 23 to the age of close to 40 seem to be leaving the workforce, the 9 to 5 workforce in particular. What are some specific examples that we can kind of give? One of the particular reasons that we've heard and we've also just did our own research on was the reason being is a lot of individuals of our generation leave the 9 to 5 workforce because they want to pay off student loan debt or personal debt that they're facing. They feel like with the 9 to 5 workforce, they're not making enough money to pay their debt. So a lot of times individuals of our generation are saying, let me start my own business where I can see all the money coming in. There's no cap when you have your own business. You can make as much money as you want. So a lot of individuals have that mindset to say, as opposed to me working 9 to 5, let's say making 25 an hour, I can make an unlimited amount of money in my entrepreneurial life. So that's one of the reasons that a lot of entrepreneurs or soon to be entrepreneurs are leaving the 9 to 5 workforce. Daniel, can you give another specific example maybe for the audience as to why a lot of millennials are leaving the 9 to 5 workforce, if you have one?
Yeah, millennials are very focused on their independent advancement. So
Right.
learning new skills is a big thing for, I think, this generation, especially as we get more technologically advanced with investing through fintech or learning about the different ways that we can make money through, whether it be NFTs or
Mhm.
whether it be through trading cryptocurrency. I think it's just learning these new skills that are more virtual and not so physical is very attractive, especially considering how the work-life balance has shifted in the past year and a half, and the pandemic is really kind of the conduit to make that happen. Because before, if you think about it back to like 2019, workforce and work-life balance was already kind of at a, let's say, a tipping point. I mean,
Right.
millennials were quitting their jobs mainly for work-life balance issues and to pursue their own kind of independent work,
Mhm.
and paying off debt, making more money, as you described earlier. But also, I think the exposure to the flexible work life that is possible with this virtual environment we're in now is
Right.
a big contributor,
Mhm.
because now you have professionals who work from home, and during their lunchtime or whatever, they can just easily go on a second computer or do something at their home, at the comfort of their home, to learn a new skill. Maybe they want to play the guitar,
Mhm.
play music, then they could just do that from the comfort of their home during their off hours, and you're
Right.
not worrying about the commute and just other factors that play into that. So I think, from to answer your question, learning skills and improving, one's, inventory of assets, I would say,
Right.
is definitely an attractive feature that a lot of millennials are going to, and the pandemic has really kind of launched that into more of the limelight. I feel like,
Exactly.
even
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. That's a big thing that you mentioned was the pandemic. And for the audience also listening, the pandemic has shifted work-life balance as a whole. It's accelerated the fact of us actually having to be home now. We have to, because of the fact that now obviously companies don't want to risk, getting employees sick, lawsuits happen, they got to pay out. So they're like, you know what, we're just going to keep everybody home, or we're going to keep everybody part-time, where a lot of, like my job, my company, where some, a lot of people are working home now, then they go back to the office and work back. That's a whole nother discussion. I feel like they should just keep everybody home, but that's just my personal feeling. But again, everybody's situation is different. But going back to what Daniel was saying is the reason why that I and Daniel wanted to highlight millennials in particular, because we're the next generation now that are becoming the CEOs, the leaders of these companies, the managers, et cetera, because we're at that age now where we're starting to establish our career more independently than us just being like, oh, I wanted to just go to school just to get the job that our parents were telling us. Now we have so much knowledge, so much resources, as Daniel mentioned. You can go online. A lot of individuals our age group go online. I take online classes. I can go on YouTube, just type in how to learn how to build websites, and you can just watch a 30-minute tutorial and they teach you this step by step. Our parents didn't have the luxury of that because the internet was something that wasn't prevalent as it is now to them. It was just coming into the fold, as opposed to now, where even now your little brother, your little sister, even if you have children, kids as early as the age of 3 know how to use an iPad. They know how to go on the computer. So think about that. Think about how we've advanced throughout the ages. Even us born in the early 90s and 80s, we just learned about going out and playing with our friends in the street. We didn't I didn't know how to use a tablet until I was already an adult. So think about that. Think about how life has accelerated so quickly. So that also is the mindset that we're in, because the fact that I love the fact that we're the generation that thinks smarter, not necessarily work harder, but thinking smarter. So we're independently thinking outside of our parents or our older peers, where it's like, okay, we don't have to work in a 9 to 5 till we're 65. We can work in a 9 to 5, but we can also make money on the side. And then nobody can tell us different, because as Daniel mentioned, now we're home. And I look around, I already have 3 different computers that is in my phone, my actual laptop that I'm watching and recording this on now, and I have a little tablet. So think about that. These are all things that I can do in the comfort of my home while still doing my 9 to 5 job. So that's very important for especially the generation that we're in. And if you're a millennial listening to this, if you're a person that's in this generation now where we're understanding technology, I think that's very important to understand that. Don't feel limited by your company. You should be independent of your company, because end of the day, they can always fire and rehire somebody. But don't you want to have the comfort of building something that's yours, where you can do whatever you want? You can wake up in your pajamas anytime, just go work, make money out the comfort of your own home, and don't have to actually be regulated by a time, a schedule. That's very important. But also another thing I want to highlight, not everybody is going to be a CEO. Not everybody wants to build a business. But I think another thing you can do is you can work for somebody that knows that's looking to build a business or has a business that needs a lot of skill sets. Think about this. Every business needs a coder now. Every business needs a software developer. You need a website. You need a logo. You need a brand. You need a marketer, somebody that knows how to promote your social media. And these are all things that, people are paying a lot of money for. Even celebrities now, they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to have social media managers. And this is very important. You have Beyonce. Beyonce's social media manager makes $500,000 a year. Think about that. Let me repeat that. Beyonce's social media
Crazy.
manager makes $500,000 a year. just managing her social media, and that's her actual job, her 9-to-5 job, so to speak. So think about how we've grown. Kim Kardashian, same individual. Her team makes a lot of money doing this. These are all just people that I mentioned to say that it's possible. Trust me, it's going to take a lot of work, but it's very, very possible. Now transitioning.
And I just wanted I
go
just
ahead.
want to touch on what you brought up, which is like really key. Is it's not pushing the idea of, you know, being an independent business owner versus working a 9 to 5. It's highlighting the fact that in today's age, having supplemental income is the key
Right.
to really getting to a level of comfort in living. Because even if you look at how the inflation rate has risen in the past year, that's record high numbers, right? I mean, I've never seen chicken go up so much in value in a year, right? Like shopping for food is crazy now.
It's insane. Yeah.
So and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other factors that is snowballed into how prices have risen. While, you know, and this has been a common theme throughout the years, you know, inflation rises, but professional salaries don't quite hit the mark. You know, maybe you'll get like a 2% raise, but it doesn't quite beat inflation. Even if it does, you're just breaking even. So in order to really get to that level of comfort, supplemental income is really key. I mean, there's really no other option if you want to get to that level of comfort. And I think that that's the driving force, with one of the driving forces of millennials, you know, really shifting gears and looking at how to make money differently, you know, because a job is really just this, you know, it's a standard way to make money, and everyone needs to work a job. You need to do something, provide some service to get money. That's, you know, but there's also the added layer of, okay, what can I do for myself that's going to bring me more wealth, and what's going to, you know, bring me more, I would say, you know, we use the term happiness loosely, but let's call it, you know, feeling the value that you're providing, right? Making yourself having it as a career versus a job. And that's another big reason is, I think, you know, millennials really, and this is just not limited to millennials, but the core focus, they are now understanding the real difference between those two titles, a job and a career, and how it really, you know, resonates with them to do something that actually has meaning versus just doing something for the paycheck. And there's so many other alternatives now, especially with the internet. We have like building their personal brand as a big thing that millennials can do now with YouTube, with social media. You could literally start any type of business, any type of side hustle, any type of differentiator that gives you and brings you joy. And that joy in itself and that passion will bring in the wealth. So it's not so black and white as it was before, where it kind of felt like you needed to make a choice. Now we have so many tools at our disposal that literally whatever we decide to do, there's someone out there we can learn from. Sometimes even for free, because most videos nowadays, you just go on YouTube, you learn something, and then boom. Or you could take a course, take an online course, take what, you know, anything that you need to do in order to learn the skill, and then apply it, and then you start your side hustle that way. And I think that's a beautiful thing that we have nowadays, where, you know, you can have the best of both worlds, but it does come down to the choice and the sacrifice, right? It's not, you know, there's only 24 hours in a day. So
no, that's a great point that you mentioned, Daniel. And I think that's kind of something that we do want to also highlight is, as a result, what industries are now starting to thrive as a result of millennials starting to transition out of that. And a few that I do want to highlight for the audience listening for first time and our last time listeners, of course. Again, it's very important that you guys kind of highlight what industries our generation has taken over. One of the main ones is camping. Now, a lot of people may be like, camping? Now, how can you make money camping? Well, you need instructions, survival. So when you see that guy, like, what's his name? Detroit, I forget his name. So the guy that basically does the stuff on the social media that teaches you how to survive in case somebody pulls a gun on you or something like that, even though I'm scared that somebody's actually going to try that with the wrong person and probably end up hurting themselves. But that's a whole nother story. But the point is that, again, camping, learning how to survive in the wilderness. These are actual people that get paid to teach individuals how to actually make it out there in the wilderness, this and that. And a lot of young individuals from the age of 25 up to, let's say, 40 is in this industry and actually teaching people how to actually survive in the wilderness or manage being outside in the wilderness, camping and with family, friends, whatever the case is. Another one is fitness. Our generation is big on fitness. If you go on social media right now, audience, you will see probably 5 of your friends being virtual fitness instructors, virtual fitness educators. That's not by coincidence. That is something that we enjoy. We want to look good. We want to feel good. So a lot of individuals have capitalized on that opportunity to say, okay, I like working out in the gym, so maybe I can teach people my regimen, how I build muscle, cut fat, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a growing industry. It's not by coincidence that every time you watch a commercial, you see probably Peloton or somebody, or let's say Platinum Fitness or whatever, one of those gyms on the commercial. That's not done by coincidence. A lot of these companies and brands understand that our generation in particular is where they're going to make their money, because we're the ones that right now, like I said, is the ones coming into our own. So fitness is a very growing industry where a lot of people, not just young, but also old, are starting to gravitate towards, because now, even with the pandemic, we want to be as healthy as possible. We've seen our loved ones, our friends, our co-workers, other get sick, or even some of them lose family members and friends, whoever passed away from COVID as a result. So we want to make sure that we're healthy. We want to make sure that we're fit, or at least we're trying. I'll say that. I understand that, waking up sometimes at 7 when it's 25 degrees out, that's not always the most ideal situation. But now you can do it from the comfort of your home, where you can watch a lot of online YouTube videos, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very important to understand, and something that I would definitely look at. The next one also is that I wanted to highlight was skincare. Skincare is really important. Why skincare? And that's just not limited to women. I want everybody to understand that. That's also men. That's a unison type of industry, so to speak. Now, what does that mean? That means that a lot of millennials now, again, if you go on social media, I like highlighting social media because that's where you can build your brand. A lot of people, Daniel, I'm sure you have friends that have built skincare companies or they do skincare tutorials. Now, what does that mean? That means that maybe they're teaching you how to get rid of black spots. If you have black spots on your face, maybe they teach you the type of makeup that you're using. Some women use makeup, men as well use makeup that not necessarily work for the skin. So a lot of people will teach you like, hey, this is what I did where I fucked up on. So I'm teaching you how to do this. A lot of people build products outside of just Fenty Beauty. You have your local community individuals. These are people that live in your community that are part of our generation that actually are building skincare products that may not get the highlight because maybe they're not a celebrity, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still good to support. It's still good to showcase that, again, these are people building industries in this basically era that's teaching you how to better take care of your skin, better take care of your personal health. And I want Daniel to also highlight the most important one, Daniel, personal finance. I think that's a key one that a lot of our generation is really highlighted in, including ourselves, personal finance. If you could give more highlights on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personal finance, we see that almost everywhere nowadays. And especially with the growing community of these new digital assets, NFTs, and with cryptocurrency being a hot topic and real estate being a hot topic. Right. I think all of these just combine themselves into different ways that you can improve your personal finance, and debt management is also included in that. I mean, you have channels on YouTube that focus specifically on debt, specifically on how to manage student loans or how to manage your credit cards, how to get rid of your credit card bills altogether, in a plan step by step. I mean, I've seen some very detailed tutorials, and I think it's really a point of now it's at a point where there's so much information and there's so many individuals in all of these lines, in all of these industries, right? Camping, fitness, travel. You know, in Instagram they have a whole a section where they list the different like health and beauty, fitness. Like they have individual hubs on Instagram now where you can just click into the hub and you see a whole bunch of videos and a whole bunch of related topics, related videos to the topic. So it's definitely there, and it's so many independent, and sometimes it may not even be business owners, they're just there to share the wealth, right? But people are doing it. And I've seen individuals that, I've like seen them grow up. We've grown up in pretty much the same neighborhoods, same circumstances or similar rather. And, they did this thing, whether it was fitness, whether it was health, whether it was skincare, personal finance. And I've seen it just launch to a point where it's kind of subsidized their 9-to-5 income.
Right.
And, to witness that happen and to actually know that it's not just, it's just like something that's there, but it's just, it's like the talk of the town, but you don't really actually see it. No, when you actually see it, it's like, yeah, this is real and you can do it too. And it's really, and all the tools are at our disposal, right? And these are the thriving industries, as Charles mentioned, in lieu of the social media gaining its steam, especially, I think now I'm starting to realize how important TikTok is. Before TikTok to me was just like TikTok. You just see some videos, they're funny, cool. But it's actually a really advantageous platform to promote products on. And I've seen the growth in sales for some businesses because of TikTok. So, and that's just one example. All the social media platforms offer a different outlet for, a business owner. Right. And I think it's something that we're going to have to really, as millennials, as we get closer and closer to kind of this, I would say, point of singularity where like the virtual world is going to blend with the physical world, in that, we have the metaverse talk coming up. We have all these different things that are happening this year with technology. Social media is going to really stand at the crux of it. And whatever we do, as like a side hustle or as like, just our own business, social media is going to be kind of like the gear shift. It's going to either propel us or it's going to, keep us, in a parked location. So definitely important to, if I will say this, if you're really thinking about doing some type of side hustle, starting some type of business, or, just doing something to pave the way out of the 9-to-5 cycle, social media is really going to be a very key, that it's going to be a key door that you got to go through. It's to manage it, to understand it. Even social media itself is a side hustle, as Charles mentioned. You have people who manage celebrity platforms for, a variety of different things. So it's its own business in itself. So definitely something to really look into. But overall, Charles, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. For me, the one thing I would also add in is also, as business managers and business supporters. Now, business supporters is basically your self audience. That's the customers, the supporters, the people that actually follow these individuals, not just celebrities. I'm not talking about celebrities per se, but people like Daniel mentioned in your community. That's part of your age group. Maybe you grew up with a lot of these individuals that have these businesses. Show support a lot of times. I think a lot of times we fail to realize that a lot of these individuals are putting their personal time, they're educating themselves as well, sharing their personal experiences. Even myself, trying to actually educate people on personal finance. That's something that I personally deal with as well on the day-to-day, is obviously understanding how to better budget, how to better obviously alleviate debt, Because the one thing that our generation has to understand is ownership. Ownership is always key. We have to try to own or try to work towards owning stuff for ourselves, not have to be cash strong or debt strong, so to speak, because of the fact that, of course, we can't buy a home, we can't own a real property, because of the fact that we can't get that loan or whatever the case that we're looking to obtain because our credit isn't good, or we owe too much in credit card debt or student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera. As ways that we can save, there's ways we can better budget, something that I'm learning as well. But I also want to share that knowledge with the audience as a whole, and as well as Daniel, as well as he gives his perspective, I believe, from his own point of view. So that's very important to know. But show support, like I mentioned. And as a business owner, if you're going to be teaching, make sure you know what the hell you're talking about. I think that's a lot of times that we fail to realize as business owners, is it's not just you starting a business, but it's also really putting in the work, understanding how your business works from A to Z. So if somebody's coming with you, let's say you're a personal finance educator, or you're a financial advisor, you know how to actually have a plan in place where someone can actually alleviate their credit card debt. Obviously, you've heard of older individuals like Dave Ramsey, where they've capitalized on the debt snowball effect. Now, you can have your own personal spin to that, where you have something where, let's say, you pay the smallest to largest bills, in chronological order. Just giving you guys an example, but that's something that you have to do through trial and error. Does it work for you, business owners? Ask yourself this: if you're going to put out a product or service, would you want to support this or purchase this thing? And if you have to question it, then I think it's time to take a step back and kind of re-educate yourself and understand, what can I do to better bring it out to the audience where anyone can understand and relate to what I'm kind of bringing out to the public. So that's very important to know. But
and you want it to be, like there's an interesting dichotomy here with being a business owner, is that you have to treat it like a job,
right.
But it has to be your career, right? It has to be, you have to be passionate about it. Because it's all on you. It's not something that you have to wake up for and do. It's something like it's your choice to do it. You have to treat it like a job, but you have to have the passion of a career in order to make it work, right? Because otherwise you're just working a second job, right? It's like picking up a second job after work kind of thing. And if it's that, it's short term. It's not going to last long. You may stay in it for a couple of years just to, get some money up, and then that's it. But if you want it to be long lasting, if you want it to be part of your personal brand, then it needs to come with that mindset. And it first starts with just the kind of thing that would, make you, obviously looking at the markets itself and seeing how profitable a certain business is. Yeah, that's important too. But the passion comes first, because that's going to be the driving force, right? And as we've said, and as it's been seen around all social media outlets, I mean, you could literally have a business in almost any type of industry, and it could be anything, right? You could sell lemonade juice and you'll make money, right? I don't think that's the issue in terms of getting and accumulating wealth. It's more about how you position your product or service, how much passion you have behind that product or service, and how it's executed. How do you deliver that to your target audience? How do you get people to buy into your idea? And how do you get them to continue returning, right? And while we're on that, learning about how to retain customers, get new clients, and everything that you need for a business to succeed, you can learn at your 9 to 5, because most 9 to 5s have a certain business structure that you can take, mold, and then apply to your own unique circumstance, right? They all follow a similar pattern.
Right.
So whether it be if you hate your 9 to 5, if you love your 9 to 5, still learn. I mean, there's opportunities everywhere to learn. I learn every day in my 9 to 5, and it's just made me a better professional. And also it brings awareness to, what I can apply for Danzel Solutions, and what I can apply for, the other things that I want to do. So I think that that's also very important to realize, taking that knowledge and taking that experience and applying it to what you do outside. Like it's like a direct, not a direct, kind of like a uh more like a in loop copy and paste, right? Because there's a system that works. So do what you need to do professionally outside of your work environment in order to at least get you to a starting point. And then you take it from there with your creative, you know, with your creativity and with how you plan everything with your business plan and so forth.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's very important, as you mentioned. Something that obviously I would just add to say, like he said, I'm an advocate of everyone doing a 9 to 5 before starting your business, because I think you have to
Yeah.
understand how a company operates before building your own. And whether, let's say, you had a bad experience or a good experience, you can always learn from both experiences, especially as you grow in your career or the career that you eventually want to do, whether it's for yourself or for somebody. But the point is that you want to do something where you understand how something is operated. So like Daniel just mentioned, just to quickly add to what he's saying, is really just don't work. Understand the work that you're doing. Understand how a company operates. A lot of times, if you work in a bigger company, you have a lot of town halls. So what are those? Those are things where the company comes together and they basically explain what the company's doing or what they have coming out. Really pay attention to that. Just don't go on your phone during those meetings. We've all been there, but sometimes take time to really listen in, understand what the CEO, COO, whoever's actually presenting is talking about. Maybe they're doing something where they're cutting your holiday schedule. That's important when you're running a business. A lot of times everybody has personal stuff. We had, even me and Daniel have experienced that, where we all went on vacation certain times where work had to still get done. But understand who's filling in for who when that happens, how they're getting paid. A lot of times you're getting underpaid without realizing, because end of the day, you're comparing based on what the company is offering, not necessarily the company and its competitors. Maybe if you work for PwC, maybe Deloitte is paying an extra 20,000 for the same position, but you don't realize that because PwC has sold you that, oh, this is the company to be, this is the position to be. So you think, oh, I'm getting paid the right salary, but sometimes it's important to do your research. So that's important. Really understanding how a company is structured and also understanding its competitors, because as a business, you're always going to have competitors. Example, who are Amazon's competitors? Walmart, Costco to some aspect, and also now the new one is what is the company's name where you can go on, I forget the name, it'll come to me, but the point is that you have all these things in place where you have to see what your competitor is doing. Who's Apple's competitor, Daniel? As you know, Samsung and or the Android. That's important. These are all things that you're mentioning. Even if you think your company isn't as big as a business owner, trust me, you have to get to a certain point as a business owner. So you always have to look at what people are doing in the same industry as you. You don't have to be those type of names I mentioned. You can be starting out, but you still have to see, what are you doing? What is your impact versus what your competitor is doing? Very important to know. And I think that's just something that I want to mention, but I want to transition into the 9 to 5 force as we're discussing. Not all millennials are leaving the industry to start their business. Some are staying in the 9 to 5 workforce strictly. But where are they starting to take over that maybe we're overlooking or not really seeing enough of? And I'm here to highlight that for you, myself and Daniel. So, top growing industries for millennials. This is a survey that they took, and this is something that I'm sharing with you in the past 12 months. So this is from the beginning of 2021 until 2022. Where has millennials been growing in the specific sectors or industries? So basically that means that whether they work in the tech, finance, food industry, et cetera, very important. So the most important and highest one millennials are working on is the technology and software industry. Daniel, why do you think that millennials, or a lot of millennials, are starting to move towards the technology sector? So these are companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta, formerly Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think a lot of millennials are moving towards these type of industries or companies in this industry?
Well, one, I think it's very lucrative. The money is very good in tech across all, not even the big names like Google or Apple, or like even, the mid-sized company.
Right.
They're offering very lucrative salaries for employees. Job growth. I think in tech companies now, there's a lot of growth in terms of your position. You could come in as an analyst and you could escalate to a senior analyst in a relatively short period of time versus other industries, right? Like, let's say finance, right? But I think one of the biggest things is the adaptation of a hybrid model where you can work from home or you can work anywhere, really. You don't have to go into the office.
Right.
And it gives you better flexibility with your at home life. Let's say if you have kids, you could, tend to your kids while getting your job done.
Right.
It some tech jobs don't necessarily follow the standard 9 to 5. They follow a more flexible approach.
Right.
Sometimes you could do, maybe a 7 to 3, or you could kind of you can up front load your days where you work maybe 3 days or 4 days out of the week, and then you have the Friday off. There's a lot of flexibility with tech jobs now. And as I said before, I believe the pandemic has kind of accelerated that flexibility as now. And I think even Google made an announcement a couple months ago that most of their employees, if not all, are virtual. So I think that's a very attractive component to have. And that's why a lot of millennials are moving to tech, is because of that flexibility, uh, outside of the how lucrative it can be, but also the future prospect of tech. I mean, if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and just how tech, the tech industry, everything that involves tech, cybersecurity, uh, data analysts, all of that, architects, engineers, all of those professions play into the tech world, and the tech world has been growing forever. I mean, it's been the longest standing growth, uh, as far as industries are concerned, in the country. There's tech jobs has always been accelerating. Even when we were young, and Charles, I'm pretty sure you heard this too. It was like, tech is the way to go. Like when
Right.
you were looking for schools, they were like, hey, tech is like the wave, it's the movement, and that's true.
Mhm.
It's true, and we see it now with everything that's happening. With virtualization becoming a high talking point, and technologies now merging with the finance world, having fintech and all kinds of crazy devices that are just being born from technology. And I think it's just, it's I don't see tech going into a downward spiral. I don't see that
No.
industry ever really going into the red.
Mhm.
But with that, and with the surge of, I think, demand for, I would say, tech jobs, it does become a little bit more competitive, right? I
Mhm.
think it's going to really require programming skills, application development skills, computer design skills, just some basic knowledge of networking,
Mhm.
just things that would make on the job training a little more smoother, because they're going to train you anyway. But
Right.
on paper, there needs to be kind of that foundational knowledge, right? And
Right.
you have thousands upon thousands of professionals transitioning into the tech world. As you mentioned, Charles, it's the highest growing industry for job switchers among millennials. And that's just millennials. We're not even factoring in the other generations.
Right.
So I think that it's going to really be, one of those industries that's going to see the most volatility in the next coming months, years. And even on one previous podcast, we talked about how tech companies now are poaching other professionals from different tech companies to go to their company, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure on LinkedIn, for those that are in the tech world, and maybe if you're not in the tech world, you have recruiters, just in your LinkedIn DMs, just saying, hey, we're a growing industry, this, that, we're in tech doing this. And that's going to happen a lot more as these companies invest in, you know, their future business operations to,
Right.
do whatever. I mean, we might have holograms in the next year, who knows?
Right. No, it's very important to note. I mean, just a few others I do also want to add in to just stay on topic with what you're discussing, Daniel and myself, is the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry.
Mhm.
Why is that? Now, the audience may be thinking, why will a lot of people in our age group want to be working in healthcare and the pharmaceutical? So what does that look like? A nurse, doctor, pharmacist, et cetera, et cetera. Think about, especially now, where we are as a generation or in the generation of the life that we're in. We have so many diseases out there. We have these viruses now, so many things. So a lot of individuals want to be that part of change where they can help others, help people, overcome these diseases or cure sicknesses, et cetera, et cetera. Our generation is the generation of change. We like to go against the norm. I know our parents get annoyed with that, but we're the generation that doesn't know how to sit down. So it's not by coincidence that a lot of people millennials in particular, are gravitating towards the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry. And I think a lot more will be going as a lot of these viruses continue to grow, these mutations that we're not really unsure of. We don't really understand how it works. Now we're getting booster shots like every year, like it's a flu shot. So I think that's going to be a lot more research getting towards that. And I think our generation is going to be a big proponent in that, in seeing the aspect of understanding why is it that these viruses are mutating and growing. We have every other month I hear a new name of a new virus coming out. So it's like, at this point it's like, we want to make sure outside of even just the viruses, but make sure that we are able to take and cure sicknesses in this world that is affecting us on a day-to-day. Our generation wants to stick long. Our parents' generation was just concerned about making it. Our generation is concerned about the impact of making it. Very important to understand. So, that's key for us. Another one that's important is financial services and insurance. I think that goes without saying. We kind of highlighted the financial services industry. So financial services industry is the money-making industry that kind of coincides with the insurance industry. Now, insurance is a growing industry among millennials because of the fact of, I mentioned, the era that we're in. Insurance isn't just insurance for life insurance. You have business insurance. You have insurance taken out for just your home, your property, real estate insurance. You got to remember that. Remember what Daniel mentioned earlier, our generation is heavily involved in real estate. So it's not just buying a home as a real estate agent. You have to make sure that if you're going to be giving it to this individual, that they're insuring this thing. So if something happens to the home or wherever that you're buying, the condo, et cetera, you're taken care of as well. Not just, whatever the case is, that company that, you're buying it from, the bank, whatever the case is, maybe you took a loan out, et cetera. You're also taken care of as well. So that's very important. The aero, auto, and transport industry. Now, I found that quite curious because of the fact that, especially now with the pandemic, flights are, being delayed. I'm going to do a podcast and discuss how the aero industry, so that's like your American Airlines, Delta, is actually becoming more of a bank. But I'm going to have a separate podcast for that.
Super
but
interesting.
but just to kind of highlight and stay on brand is the reason why a lot of millennials are getting into this industry is, as Daniel mentioned earlier, it kind of goes with the technology industry is, again, you want to have someone that understands how to develop, you understand how, because it's not just, a lot of people fail to realize that the aero, auto, and transport industry isn't just you being a pilot. There's so many things that you can do. You can be a flight attendant, you can be an engineer. So you're someone that actually helps build these planes. These you understand, you're a weather admin. So basically, what does that basically mean? So that means that you need someone that understands the weather, how the weather works. So when a lot of these pilots are flying, is it okay to fly? Do you have inclement weather coming in? These are people that actually get hired through these airline industries to make that assessment to say like, hey, Daniel, you can't fly out today because at 2 o'clock you got heavy rain coming in, and you're flying at 50,000 feet or 30,000 feet in the air. You're liable to get impacted in the storm. These are all things that you need to understand. You need to understand somebody that knows how tail fins work. So what does that mean? That means when you're descending, what altitude is that descending at? You need coders for that. You need someone that understands software, how to basically build the right tail fin. That's why every time you see that all these Boeing 500, you're going to have, by the time we're in our 40s, you're going to have Boeing 600, et cetera, et cetera. All these new planes are being built because of the fact that we're dealing with the change in weather. Because now look at it. We live in the Northeast. Daniel, what did we see today? We saw rain, snow, sun, rain, snow, all in the span of 5 hours. So think about that. So you need
day after tomorrow.
Right, exactly. You need the equipment that's readily available. So in case something happens, God forbid, whilst you're in the air, your plane isn't impacted and you don't lose lives. You can easily maybe land in a state or something and, just build it, reassess, and then you go back out. So that's very important. And architecture and engineering. So architecture is real estate. That's building homes, building properties. You have to have someone that understands where to build, what land to build on, how long the project is going to take. You need engineers for this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all the industries that millennials are starting to see a huge gain in, or companies are seeing millennials come into, so to speak. So yeah. Daniel, your thoughts on that?
And that's so interesting. I'm the aero.
Right. Yeah. I think Daniel froze up. I don't know, but I'm just going to keep talking. I don't know if you froze up, Daniel. Yeah. So, I mean, as mentioned, it's interesting. I don't know if Daniel froze up, audience, because he's frozen on my end. But anyway, what I do want to continue to highlight is, as Daniel mentioned, the aerospace industry has seen a large growth, seen a huge proponent of that. Daniel, can you hear me?
There we go. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back, man. Continue.
Okay. Yeah, man. This too much bandwidth on little bandwidth, I should say, on the router here.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the aero industry is very interesting to me. That is a growing topic for job switchers because of the fact that the pandemic has impacted that industry in a way where we've actually seen kind of a decline in a lot of services for American Airlines, JetBlue. Like we've seen the shift and the change of their services and just over the year, and that's due to kind of the declining labor force. I mean, I think, and that was like one of the industries that was impacted a lot by what they call the Great Resignation, right? Like that's like the thing. All millennials, and well, not just millennials, everyone leaving their jobs, whether to go to another job or to just go to work as a business owner or whatever the case is. So very interesting. I mean, I think that's one of the industries that it kind of there's so much that really ties in where technology is concerned, as Charles mentioned. So very fascinating to kind of see how certain industries have really grown. Well, how certain industries have attracted more millennials, despite the fact that the pandemic has impacted them and impacted kind of their bottom line, right? So, really interesting to see. And I think, while we're on the topic of this Great Resignation, I think it's really gonna somewhat continue into this year and even this is a topic that's kind of pulled into that whole idea of leaving your job to seek another job, or leaving your job to continue do what you are passionate about, your business on the side or whatever the case is. So we're going to see a lot of volatility within all industries.
Right.
I think tech is going to be one of the big ones that a lot of professionals gravitate to. As Charles mentioned, healthcare is going to be right up there as number two, with all these different, vaccines that are coming out and the research that's required. And even just from a staff perspective, you look at, hospitals, they need more RNs, they need more personnel on hand. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And, it's going to really be kind of driving home the idea. This is a moment where I think, as a professional, you can ask yourself the question, where do I want to go?
Right.
What kind of career path do I want to take? Because it's not necessarily, we're not in an economic position where you kind of just have to take what you can get.
Right.
There's actually a demand for employees. There's a demand for a professional workforce. So I think from that angle, it's more, and there's a term for it, it's not coming to mind right now, but we hold the power, right? We
Right.
we are kind of like, jobs want us, right? The it's shifted now. So, market conditions have changed. So we're in a position now where we could make the decision and choose where to work. I mean, obviously some industries are going to be better than others, but from a high level point, you can really choose where you want your career path to go. So
Right.
I would say, from my closing thoughts on this is the opportunity to self-analyze, self-reflect. We're still early in the new year. It's 2022, January has not ended yet. So for anyone who's listening, really take this time to decide where you want your career to go. And if you're on that path, great. Continue the trajectory and get to that level that you want to get to. But if you're not on that trajectory, now is the time to kind of shift gears and see where you want to go, because there's a plethora of opportunities out there. And it's not limited to what, it's not industry specific limited, because every industry needs somebody, right?
Right.
As I said, the great resignation is happening as we speak, right?
Mhm.
So for one person who leaves a job, another person goes in to take the vacancy. So
Right.
keep that in mind. And I hope everyone finds their passion, finds their niche.
Right. And it's a great point that Daniel made for the audience that's listening, as mentioned. So it's really finding where you fit in, because again, as Daniel mentioned, a lot of these companies, they're not stupid. They understand that our generation is not a generation that is going to be taking over a lot of these companies in the leadership positions and the workforce, so to speak. So that basically looks like this. That looks like, so a lot of the managers are going to be people from the age of 30 to 40. A lot of the analysts and senior analysts are going to be people in their early 20s to late 20s and even approaching early 30s. So they want to make sure that if they are going to basically adapt and basically keep the talent, so to speak. Remember, you've heard, if you ever worked in 9 to 5, you always heard the name talent pool. What does talent pool mean? That means that the people that they could obtain or potentially obtain for their company. And every workforce needs employees. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in. You can work for the NFL to working in McDonald's. Every industry needs employees, or talent pools, as they refer to that. That's a name they like to use. So that means that, example, like he mentioned, picking people with the skill sets that match what the company is trying to do. So as companies adapt, they have to hire people that know how to work in these industries. So what does that mean? So the technology era that we're in now we're in a technology era. So we need people that understand how the code, how to build data, how to carry data, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they also know that our generation is a generation that gets easily bored. We easily like to challenge the status quo. We don't really go against what they were doing back in the 80s and 90s. We're like, if we're the generation that says, fuck you, we're leaving this company and I'm going to go do my own thing. So the fact that we're easily bored, companies now are trying to really innovate and say, okay, how can we kind of keep it interesting so to keep a lot of people in? So that enters why a lot of people now, if you look at a lot of resumes, they ask you, do you know certain things like Python? Do you know HTML, CSS? Because this is very important, because what they're going to do is, as a reward for you for understanding how to kind of build data, create data, structured data, they promote you as a reward or give you an incentive. That's a bonus, add a bonus in your compensation, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all things that you should be paying attention to as this generation coming into the fold, that our previous predecessors, that's our parents, grandparents, didn't really understand. So that's important. So that's what we kind of wanted to highlight for this episode, was not just the fact of why are millennials particularly leaving the 9 to 5, but also in turn, what is going to keep us engaged in a 9 to 5 job or stay with a 9 to 5 job. And it's okay for you to leave a company. Don't be limited by a company. Yes, we all have our personal shit we have to deal with. We got to pay rent. We got to pay our mortgage. We got kids. We got student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Daniel mentioned this, and I mentioned this. You can stay in your 9 to 5, but do something else to make more money for yourself, or at least try. It doesn't hurt to try, right, Daniel? I think we can all agree to that. It doesn't hurt to try. Look, we've all failed at everything. I've failed at many things. I'm sure Daniel has many things he's failed at, but we've also seen success. The way you make money is by trial and error. So, audience listening, just go ahead and try whatever you want to do. Whether it's not even building a company, you want to take a course, just take it. Even if you don't use it, hey, you took it. Eventually, you can teach somebody else that can probably use that knowledge. If you're looking to get into the technology world or the finance world, reach out to your friend, the person you went to high school with, shit, your ex-lover, I don't know, the person who works for this company you're interested in. Just say, hey, how did you do it? Ask questions. These are all things that you should know, because the end of the day is the more you ask, the more you reach out, the more you learn. And the more you learn, you know how to apply it. So if you are looking to get into, let's say you want to work for a JP or PwC, or you want to work for, let's say, Shopify or whatever, Meta, you want to get into VR, virtual reality, you want to work for Tesla, pay attention to these job descriptions. What are they asking of? What are they particularly looking for? And just because they say, oh, you need 5 years experience, that's not always true. What you should be looking at more so is, what's the skill set? Maybe they're saying, hey, they're looking for someone that knows how to code. They're looking for someone that knows how to use pivot tables or through Excel. These are all things that you can learn just by watching a 20-minute YouTube video. Audience, what are you doing that's going to impact your work or how you make more money for yourself, your family, your significant other? That's a takeaway. I want to thank those tuning in from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. This is a Danso Pitch, episode 59. Why are millennials leaving the 9 to 5 lifestyle? This episode will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, the Danso Pitch on SoundCloud, as well as YouTube. We will be promoting through the Danso Pitch on Instagram. Make sure you check us out. Subscribe through our YouTube as well. This is the Danso Pitch. I am your host, Miss Charles Danso, as well, joined by Mr. Daniel Goodman. And we'll see you next episode. Peace.
All right. Peace out, y'all.